So right now, uh, high above the paved, crowded trails of Zion National Park,
Mm.
somebody's out there literally using their lightest friend as a human counterweight just to cross a pool of stagnant, freezing water.
Yeah, which is just insane to think about.
Right, because, I mean, when most of us think of a vacation to Zion, you picture a very specific managed experience.
Oh, totally. We like our wilderness to be breathtaking, but we heavily prefer it to come with handrails.
Exactly. Handrails, clear signage, you ride the shuttle bus, you walk the maintained paths, you take your picture at the viewpoint with like 100 other people, and then you head back to the lodge for dinner.
It's comforting.
It is. But the
Yeah.
moment you step off that pavement and actually look into the hidden vertical world of this park, that safety net just vanishes entirely.
Completely. It's a landscape that is fundamentally hostile to human life.
Yeah. And so, welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
Because we have built this incredible stack of sources for you today to really explore this underworld.
It's a great stack, too.
It is. We're pulling from a raw collection of first-person adventurer vlog. So people documenting these unguided, high-stakes routes through places like Water Canyon, Mystery Canyon, and Lodge Canyon.
Right. And we've combined those visceral videos with data from a commercial guide services website.
Yeah, and we're even digging into the historical accounts of these decommissioned 100-year-old park trails that, honestly, people are still secretly climbing.
Which creates this fascinating cross-section of information, right? Because we have the glossy, controlled marketing of the guided tours sitting directly next to the gritty, unedited reality of, well, what happens when things go terribly wrong in the backcountry?
Seriously. So our mission for you today is to uncover the physical, the mental, and the historical realities of extreme adventuring in Zion.
Why are people doing this?
Exactly. Why are people waiting years for permits? Why are they plunging into stagnant ice water? And why on earth are they scaling abandoned cliffside trails that the Park Service explicitly decided were too deadly for the general public?
Right.
So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's actually start by looking at the commercial side of things.
Yeah.
Because I think it frames a massive psychological disconnect people have about canyoneering.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you look at the data from Red Desert Adventure, they're a commercial outfitter in the area, they offer trips ranging from like $135 for a half day to $325 for high adventure routes.
Okay.
And for that price, absolutely anyone, literally zero experience required, can book a trip to tackle rappels up to 200 feet high.
See, looking at their materials, I originally assumed people were paying that money to, like, conquer a paralyzing fear of heights.
Sure, that makes sense.
I mean, dangling from a 140-foot rope over a sheer drop, that sounds like the ultimate mental hurdle for a beginner.
It does.
But reading between the lines of what these guides are actually saying, the rappel isn't the crux of the trip at all.
No, not even close.
The guides explicitly note that the hardest part is the relentless, brutal uphill hiking required just to reach the top of these canyons.
Wait, so you're telling me that hanging from a rope off a cliff is the easy part? Basically, yeah. The physical reality completely subverts our expectations here.
That is so wild to me.
I know, right? Like, mentally stepping backward off a 200-foot cliff is absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah, hard pass for me.
But physically, it actually requires very little of you. Once you are on the rope, gravity is doing all the work.
Yeah, good point.
Your harness holds your weight, and the belay device you're holding is just managing the friction. You are simply sliding down.
Right.
But fighting gravity to get to that drop-in point, that requires massive cardiovascular output.
Watching these vlogs, it really looks like a giant vertical game of chutes and ladders.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Right, like the rappels are the chutes. They're the fun, effortless, adrenaline-pumping reward. But climbing the ladders, that approach hike is what actually breaks these people.
It really does.
Like in the Water Canyon vlog, the group has to hike and scramble to gain 1,500 feet of elevation just to reach their first rappel.
It's grueling.
And they are walking on steep, loose scree, where every step forward means, sliding half a step back.
Oh, and no shade.
None. As they climb higher, they completely lose the tree cover.
Yeah.
You can literally hear the group's jokes and laughter just die out on the camera audio.
Yeah, it's just heavy breathing under the baking desert sun.
Exactly.
And see, the guides know this. They know that managing a client's heat exhaustion and leg fatigue on a steep, shadeless, slick rock incline is a way bigger operational challenge than talking them through a controlled descent on a rope.
Right, because the approach hike depletes your energy reserves, before the technical part of the day even begins.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the mechanics of what happens once you actually drop into these canyons.
Just a whole other beast.
Yeah, because the commercial tours have guides to set everything up. But when you watch these unguided groups navigating complex routes like Water Canyon or Lodge Canyon, it stops being a hike. It turns into this wild, MacGyver-esque physics puzzle.
Because nature rarely installs convenient bomb-proof anchor points exactly where you need them.
Right.
And that problem-solving aspect is actually a massive draw for the people who do this recreationally.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like in Water Canyon, the group comes to this obstacle called a guided rappel.
Oh, yeah, this part was crazy.
Right. Basically, they have to rappel down a vertical wall, but they also have to travel horizontally over this massive pothole filled with deep, nasty, stagnant water.
So it's meant to function like a hybrid between a rappel and a zip line, so you stay dry.
Exactly. But here's the catch. They didn't have a natural anchor on the far side of the pool to tie the rope to.
Uh-oh.
So they had to send their lightest team members across the canyon first, tie them together on a ledge, and literally use those human beings as a living counterweight.
Just to keep the line taut.
Yes. So the heavier members could zip across without sagging into the water.
What's fascinating here is that canyoneering at this level is ultimately an exercise in applied physics and, honestly, extreme uncompromising trust. You aren't just trusting a piece of nylon webbing wrapped around a tree. You are literally trusting the mass, the stance, and the friction of your friends' bodies to keep you out of danger.
Just put yourself in that position for a second. Imagine being you, the listener, being the lightweight friend sent across a canyon first,
No thanks.
standing on a slippery ledge, acting as a human anchor, while your largest friend slides across a rope attached directly to your harness.
The tension just pulling you forward.
And if you slip, you both go into the stagnant water.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to maintain a sense of humor to survive that kind of stress.
You do. And it develops a very specific brand of gallows humor among these teams.
Oh, for sure.
You're managing constant low-level threats all day, so laughing becomes a necessary pressure release valve.
The culture captured on these vlogs is honestly hilarious. Like in Lodge Canyon, someone jokes to a nervous tourist on the side of the road that they need to, quote, bribe the ranger to get a parking spot.
Oh, and the tourist actually believes them.
Right. The tourist immediately panics, and the group has to quickly backtrack, pleading, no, please, please do not attempt to bribe the federal rangers.
That's amazing.
And the gear management is a whole other layer of comedy. They constantly complain that their rope bags are, like, magnetically attracted to water.
Yep.
Someone drops a bag down a cliff, it manages to find the literally only puddle in the entire canyon, and they have to execute this ridiculous rescue operation just to fish it out.
Because you can't just leave your gear.
No. They even brought 3 entire ropes to Lodge Canyon, specifically because that canyon is notorious for sticking ropes.
Yeah, and a stuck rope is incredibly common, and it happens for a few reasons.
Right.
When you pull a rope down after a rappel, the friction of wet nylon dragging over sandstone basically acts like sandpaper.
Ugh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Canyons are full of these V-shaped grooves carved by water, and a knotted rope will wedge itself perfectly into those pinches,
So you pull your rope down?
and it gets stuck 50 feet above you, and if you don't have a backup rope, you are stranded.
Man, so the humor and camaraderie in these videos, it really exists right on a razor's edge.
It does.
The vlogs make it look like a fun weekend with friends, until suddenly it is very, very not fun.
Yeah, things can change in an instant.
Let's talk about the deadly reality of Lodge Canyon. Because as beautiful as the footage is, they casually mention that at least one fatality occurred on the final rappel.
Just from falling rock.
Right. Someone simply kicked a loose rock on their descent, and it fell and struck a person below them.
Because gravity works both ways. It helps you descend, but it also turns a pebble into a lethal projectile.
Exactly.
The canyon environment is just actively hostile to human error. But, the most striking example of how quickly things turn deadly in our sources isn't actually from falling rock.
No.
It's from the water.
The Pine Creek Canyon account is honestly harrowing. It completely shatters the illusion that experience makes you immune to the canyon.
It really does. We have a first-hand account from an adventurer who returns to Pine Creek 11 years after a highly successful, easy first trip.
Right, so he knows the raft.
He thinks he knows the route. He goes back with his group expecting a fun repeat performance.
Yeah.
Instead, the canyon has completely transformed. He drops into a deep, dark pool of stagnant 32-degree water, and he basically faces near-fatal, hypothermia.
See, hypothermia in the Utah desert sounds like a complete oxymoron to anyone who hasn't been there.
It does sound crazy.
It's like being locked inside a walk-in freezer while the building outside is literally on fire.
That's a great way to put it.
The surface of Zion might be baking at 100 degrees in the sun, but these slot canyons are so deep and narrow that they just never see sunlight.
They are entirely independent microclimates, and the physiological details he provides in his account are crucial for understanding the sheer speed of this danger.
Oh, man. Yeah.
As soon as he hits that 32-degree water, his core temperature just plummets. He experiences a cold shock response, which causes involuntary gasping.
Yeah, he describes his breathing constricting as if he's operating on half a lung.
Terrifying.
His lips turn blue almost instantly. And the scariest part to read was his loss of motor control and cognitive function.
His brain just stopped working.
Right. He's struggling to swim through this flooded, tipped passageway in the dark. His helmet comes loose. He can barely communicate with his team, and his hands just stop working.
He literally had to be physically rescued by a stranger in the group.
Wow.
Yeah, this stranger dragged him into a tiny shaft of sunlight to warm up. And that shaft of sunlight, that was pure luck.
Because in a slot canyon, the only way out is down.
Exactly. You cannot climb back up a 100-foot sheer wall.
He recovers just enough to stop violently shivering, but then he has to face a final 100-foot rappel with foggy, wobbly legs.
He even mentions that rigging his descent device felt like he had never been on a rope before in his life because his brain was so sluggish.
Wow.
And this illustrates a fundamental truth about these environments. Nature does not care about your past experience.
No, it doesn't.
The canyon changes with every season. A flash flood can scour out 10 feet of sand, turning a shallow puddle into a deep, freezing swim.
Yeah.
It can wash away giant boulders that you used as anchor points a decade ago. A route you conquered easily can be an unrecognizable, life-threatening trap today.
It's terrifying. But despite the freezing water, the physical exhaustion, and the very real risk of death, people are absolutely desperate to get into these canyons.
They really are.
Which brings us to the strange duality of Zion. You have extreme, profound isolation existing right alongside mass tourism.
Yeah.
And the permit system is the gatekeeper here. And those gates are locked incredibly tight.
Oh, incredibly tight. In the vlog for Mystery Canyon, the group reveals a staggering detail. They had been entering the park's lottery for 3 years just to get a single permit for this specific route.
3 years of waiting.
3 years.
But looking at the footage, the reward for that patience is access to what is essentially the park's exclusive VIP room.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
The climax of Mystery Canyon is this massive 120-foot rappel down a lush green waterfall called Mystery Spring. And the vlogger describes the atmosphere as completely prehistoric, like stepping into Jurassic Park.
I can totally see that.
The water is crystal clear, the walls are covered in these hanging guardians of ferns, and they are completely alone. Just hours of profound, beautiful silence.
And then comes the psychological whiplash of the exit.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. After hours of total isolation and intense, highly technical down climbing, that final gorgeous waterfall rappel drops them directly into the Narrows.
And the Narrows is arguably the most famous, heavily trafficked river hike in the entire national park system.
It's literally a watery gorge, packed wall to wall with everyday tourists in rented neoprene water shoes carrying walking sticks.
Yeah.
And these adventurers drop in on a rope from the sky, and suddenly they are a spectacle.
Like aliens landing.
Exactly. They get hoots, hollers, and applause from this massive crowd as their feet touch the water. It's so surreal. I mean, imagine spending 6 hours escaping a desolate, high-stakes, life-or-death escape room only for the exit door to dump you directly into the shallow end of a crowded wave pool at a water park.
That is exactly what it's like.
Within seconds of pulling their rope down, the vlogger notes they instantly transition from feeling like wilderness survivors to looking like, quote, regular tourists with extra backpacks.
And it perfectly captures the appeal for you, the listener, who wants to understand the drive behind this sport. Putting in the technical work, learning the physics of anchors, and enduring the brutal approach hikes grants you backdoor access to the park's most famous landmarks.
Yeah.
You get a vertical perspective that the crowds waiting in the river below will never even realize exists.
That's a huge payoff. But you know, that illusion of control we've been talking about in the canyons,
Yeah.
it's not just a subterranean problem.
No, it's not.
The Park Service actually tried to engineer that same false sense of safety thousands of feet up in the sky. And this brings us to Lady Mountain.
Ah, Lady Mountain. This is a fascinating case study in historical park management, and it highlights the modern unintended consequences of trying to regulate wilderness.
The history here absolutely blew my mind.
It's pretty crazy.
Back in 1924, the park actually built an official trail to the summit of Lady Mountain. They installed 2,000 feet of steel cables, hand-carved steps, and exposed wooden ladders going straight up a 2,700-foot sandstone wall.
Sounds safe.
Right. It was meant to be a thrilling tourist attraction, but by the 1960s, it had proven so deadly and required so many dangerous rescues that the park decommissioned it.
Yeah.
They actually sent crews up to physically strip out all the safety hardware just to stop people from climbing it.
Well, they removed the hardware, but they couldn't erase the geography of the route itself.
True. And today, climbers are still doing it, but the stakes are unimaginably higher.
Oh, yeah.
Because instead of holding onto steel cables, climbers are navigating by these faded 20-year-old painted arrows on the rock. They're relying on old Moki steps.
Right.
I actually had to look this up. Moki steps are these shallow, bowl-shaped footholds chopped directly into the cliff face. It was originally a technique used by ancestral Pueblones.
Yeah, and they are barely deep enough for the toe of your shoe.
Barely.
And the technical rock climbing required now is significant.
The sources mention having to free climb a 5.5 or 5.6 graded, overhung rock chimney.
Which is no joke.
No. For anyone who doesn't climb, a 5.0 is basically a steep, rocky staircase, and a 5.10 is a smooth vertical wall. A 5.5 or 5.6 means you are climbing vertical rock.
Yeah.
But an overhang means the rock actually leans backward over the sheer drop. You are relying entirely on the strength of your fingers and toes to keep from falling backward into empty space.
With massive fatal exposure.
If your foot slips out of a century-old Moki step, you die. And there are no safety chains to catch you.
But the payoff for surviving that ascent is a completely isolated 360-degree view of Zion, 2,500 feet directly above the main lodge.
Wow.
But the crucial question to analyze here is why people are increasingly seeking out this decommissioned, highly dangerous route today.
Well, the sources point directly to recreation.gov.
Yeah, they do.
The Park Service recently implemented a strict new permit lottery system for Angel's Landing. And Angel's Landing is like the famous hike everyone sees on social media. It has huge drop-offs, but it also has heavy chains bolted into the rock for safety.
Right.
So I really have to question the park's logic here. By implementing a lottery system to make a popular managed trail like Angel's Landing less crowded and quote-unquote safer, is the Park Service inadvertently forcing thrill seekers onto abandoned, vastly more dangerous routes like Lady Mountain?
This raises an important question about the concept of risk displacement.
Mm-hmm.
It's a well-documented phenomenon in recreation management. When you block access to a managed risk-like Angel's Landing, where the danger is mitigated by chains and clear-footing human nature dictates that a certain percentage of the population will seek out an unmanaged risk.
Because they travel thousands of miles for that adrenaline and that view.
Exactly. If they are denied the permit, they will look for an alternative.
And the alternative they find is a vertical wall of sandstone with faded yellow arrows and zero safety equipment.
And the sources bring up a terrifying mountaineering statistic in relation to this route. 70 to 80% of climbing accidents happen on the descent.
70 to 80%.
Yep.
Which makes sense when you think about human nature.
Yeah.
You hit the summit, you take your photos, and your brain signals, mission accomplished, the hard part is over.
But that is the ultimate psychological tap at the mountains. When you are climbing up that 5.6 chimney, your visual focus is entirely on the rock directly in front of your face.
You're moving against gravity.
Right. But when you turn around to go down, you are staring directly into the void of the exposure. Gravity is no longer something you are fighting against. It is actively pulling you toward the edge.
Oh, that's horrifying.
And furthermore, your leg muscles are shaking from the fatigue of the climb. On Lady Mountain, you have to downclimb that overhang, feeling blindly with your toes for a shallow, mooky step.
Man.
That is exactly where mental focus slips, and that is exactly where fatalities happen.
It is staggering to think about the sheer physical toll and the intense mental focus required to survive that descent.
It really is.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've looked at commercial tours that mask physical suffering with ropes, subterranean slot canyons that can freeze a person to death in the middle of the desert sun, VIP drops into crowded rivers, and 100-year-old ghost trails scaled by people who lost a permit lottery.
It means that whether you are navigating a 32-degree pool of stagnant water deep underground or you are clinging to a faded painted arrow 2,500 feet in the air. The extreme side of Zion requires an intense, uncompromising respect.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder to all of us that the wild cannot be fully paved over, and it certainly can't be fully permitted.
No.
The paved paths and the shuttle buses we talked about at the beginning are just a very thin veneer over a landscape that is still deeply raw, untamed, and entirely indifferent to our survival.
Yeah, and it leaves us with one final provocative thought to consider.
Okay.
In the video documenting the ascent of Lady Mountain, the climbers didn't just stumble upon the correct path up a 2,700-foot cliff.
Right.
They explicitly mentioned downloading a highly accurate 3D GPS map, specifically a GPX file from an underground adventure website called Stav is Lost, directly to their smartphones.
Wait, really? So they had a perfect digital breadcrumb trail guiding them up a mountain that the park abandoned in the 1960s.
Exactly. So the question we have to ask ourselves as we look to the future is, in an era where absolutely anyone can download an exact topographical map and step-by-step route coordinates to a device in their pocket, can a national park ever truly close a wilderness trail anymore?
Wow.
Or does removing the safety cables just turn an official hike into an unregulated high-stakes challenge for the internet age?